And welcome to the University of Nottingham PGCE. My name is Helen Spiropoulos. I'm the admissions manager at Stafford Global, and joining me this evening all the way from the UK is Dr. Alison. Good evening to you, Dr. Alison.
Good evening, Helen, and good evening, everyone. I'm really looking forward to our PGCEI webinar. I'm very, very pleased to join you.
Thank you. And I am looking here on my right-hand side on my panel. I can see there's quite a lot of you that have joined us from the UAE, and there's even as far as Singapore, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. What we're going to do this evening is I'm just briefly going to introduce you to Stafford, what our function is, and I'm then going to hand you over to Dr. Alison, who's going to take you through the program. Now, towards the end of the presentation, you will have the opportunity to type out any questions that you'd like to ask me or Dr. Alison, and I will be looking at these questions quite carefully because a lot of them are very similar, if not identical, so I'm going to start grouping them together. So please do listen out for these important questions and answers. Okay, so let's get started. Who is Stafford Global? Now, we were established in 1993, and we are a resource center for distance learning education in the Middle East. And we are currently a resource center for 5 UK universities, one of which is the University of Nottingham. And we have had a very, very long existing relationship with the University of Nottingham, and Dr. Alison might even touch on that a little bit later as well. Now, we do offer a variety of programs ranging from certificates to diplomas, bachelors, MBAs, MScs, right through until doctorates. So we really do have all the programs that could suit your personal as well as your professional needs. Now, the mere fact that you're here with us this evening means that you have been in touch with one of our experienced academic consultants. And what we actually do here is we assist you throughout the application process, make sure that we get that very important unconditional offer for you. And we do also offer some academic as well as a strong administrative support. Okay, so I'm now going to hand you over to Dr. Alison, and I shall be joining you towards the end of the webinar. Over to you, Dr. Alison.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, we do enjoy a really, really active partnership with Stafford. We have good relationships, we communicate with each other well, and I think it's really, really helpful for you as students. That's been our style over the years, and it works really, really well. So I hope you're going to enjoy this evening, and I hope you're going to find it really interesting and informative, and I hope to encourage you as well to apply for the University of Nottingham PGCEI. So let's just take a look at the university first of all. The university is a really prestigious university because it is part of the Russell Group in the UK, and it's really well known for its research-led teaching. And so it's really, really popular for undergraduates as well as postgraduates. And we do have students who come from over 150 countries. That's to Nottingham itself, as well as having campuses in China and Malaysia. And I think I can honestly say that the university will offer you a truly international experience. And you'll be taught by world expert tutors who all have a range of specialisms which they can bring to the course and to the teaching. The university is really proud of the PGCEI course because it's grown over the years, and we now have more than 70 countries represented as part of that course. And if you were to join the course, you would become one of the 5,000 graduates which we have to date. The Postgraduate Certificate itself is at master's level, and it's a blended learning programme of professional enrichment for educators working in countries other than the UK. Now, because it is a blended programme, I think this is a particular strength. And although at the moment we can't meet each other face to face, which is a really important part of the programme, We've made real strides this last year during the pandemic, and we've increased our tutor groups and we've increased our webinars. So students during that time have had plenty of time with their tutors and lots of time to talk together and discuss their progress and actually enrich each other's learning and teaching experiences. I hope in the future that our face-to-face programme will start again, because it is really, really good to be able to meet together twice during the course in the UAE. Okay, the course itself focuses on reflecting on individual practice. That's your individual practice, your teaching practice through theory. And it hopefully enables you to compare those teaching approaches in different countries, because we do have students coming from all over the globe. And I think this is another strength of the programme, because it creates such a rich dialogue. And even though we can't meet face to face, we do talk in groups, we talk in tutor groups, and I encourage students to talk together through WhatsApp and other media. And I'd also like to add as well that the course is relevant to all phases. So if you happen to be a kindergarten teacher or a primary teacher or a secondary teacher or even an FE teacher, the course is relevant for you. And again, this provides richness in that you will be discussing ways of working, the purpose of learning, the importance and approaches of teaching with people from other phases. Which is all part of the enrichment of this programme. So let's look at the course structure itself. The PGCEI consists of 3 compulsory modules, 3 compulsory 20 credit bearing modules, which should be completed over a period of 12 months. It's not quite 12 months, but it is 12 months by the time you graduate. And the 3 modules covered are quite separate. They do stand alone, but they are linked because of the nature of the content. So the first module, it will look closely at educational aims and values in an international context, and that's really important. The second module looks very closely at understanding, learning and teaching in an international context, and that's very much part of your own work as a teacher and extending the learning process of your students. The final module is inquiring into educational practice, again in international contexts. And this is where you have an opportunity to do some personal research in your own classroom, looking at a particular topic which you would choose and working closely with a very small group of children. It's a very interesting part of the course and students really enjoy this. Now, for all 3 of those modules, you will find there's a wealth of resources through the course materials that will support you and challenge you. As well as that, we have a very, very secure support system from tutors who will provide you with ongoing guidance and ongoing support as you need it. We do recognise that for some of you who perhaps haven't done any studying for some years, that this might be a challenge, especially if you're working full time. But I can hopefully reassure you that all students, once they start the course, get into a sort of pattern of working and putting some study time aside and really to suit yourself, whether you're the kind of person who studies in the evening when you finish your normal day job, or whether you might study at weekends. And this, of course, is dependent on your family circumstances too. But again, just to reassure you, all students have actually found this quite okay. It's not too difficult to plan, and you can plan it individually to suit yourself. At the end of each module, you'll find that you have an assignment to write, which again might sound quite daunting, but you will have support for that. It's a 4,000 word or equivalent assignment, which is not too daunting. It's enough to have words at your fingertips to be able to make a good and interesting assignment, but it's not too long. It's not like a long dissertation. And you will have 3 of these over the course of the 12 months. Now, the good news is if you pass the course and you get You pass each part of each module individually with a mark of 53 or above. You will have accumulated some credits, and you can use those credits when the course is finished towards an MA in education. And there are some different options, as you'll see on the slide. You could choose to do an MA in special needs. You could do an MA in educational leadership and management. And also, we do have contacts with using your credits towards English as a second language MA. The most popular one, of course, is the MA Education, and that has really strong links with what you would have done already. And as with the PGCEI, all the materials, the learning resources and the tutor support is available online. And you would have an individual tutor for this too, who'll provide that support and the group discussions that I know you'd enjoy. So moving on, if you did choose to join this course, and I really hope you do, what would we say are the entry requirements? Well, you do need a bachelor's degree with at least a second-class honours or equivalent, or an approved professional qualification, which is equivalent to a second-class honours. And I think this is an important point to make. If English is not your first language, you must achieve an IELTS at an academic level. It's an academic qualification that you're looking at with a 6.5 minimum, and with a score of no less than 6 in all the 4 elements, which would be speaking, listening, reading and writing. So those are the 2 major areas that you'd need to have, your requirements would need to match in that sense. You also need to be an established educator who has regular contact in an educational context. Now that might be in a classroom, in a school, but it does include online learning. And sometimes we've had people on the course who are tutors, face-to-face tutors, so that there are a variety of experiences that you could bring to the course. But it's important that you do have access to students. That really is important. And of course, obviously, an access to a computer and the internet. I would encourage you, though, to don't hesitate to apply. If you feel you have an application which is not particularly standard, it's different, please do apply, because we do accept non-standard applications to be considered, and they would be considered on a case-by-case basis back at the university. And we have had many students who've applied successfully to be part of the course with a slightly different background. Okay, so how would you apply for this course? Well, first of all, you need to make sure you have a transcript, which is your degree certificate and your academic qualifications. That's important. You need a reference, and that's either an academic reference from somebody who maybe was part of your degree course, or a work-related reference, somebody who you're working with, particularly your principal if you're working in a school. And you also need to write a personal statement of approximately between 500 and 700 words. And I think this particular requirement is really important. And I would advise you to spend lots of time on this to show your real interest and commitment to teaching and learning, why you think it's important, why it interests you, and particularly why you would be very interested to be part of this course. That would all be very much in your favour. And linked with that, I think it's important to provide a very detailed CV. Sometimes students are reluctant, I think, to put everything on that CV because it becomes quite long. But do try to put things on which are not necessarily to do with education. They might be things that you've done which are quite interesting and have developed you as a particular person, which would link in a very interesting way to becoming a teacher and having lots of interesting things to offer your students. Now, in addition to all of this, you do need to fill in the Nottingham University application form. and you will need a passport copy, a copy of your passport, as well as your proof of English, which I've already mentioned. Quite a long list, isn't it? But it doesn't take too long to put it together if you start doing it early enough. And I can't suggest enough that you do start to do that if you are interested in being part of this course. We are starting to accept applications already for the October 2021 intake, which seems such a long time ahead, but it is a really popular course, and places are limited on the course for each cohort. So my advice to you is, if you are interested, is to start to get together all the things you need for your for the requirements for your application, and do it fairly soon. The last date for applications is the 27th of September, and the course itself does begin on the 1st of October. I think one of the best things about this course, and this would normally be something that we do face to face, and we've always enjoyed this very, very much, being part of the whole group, the whole cohort in the UAE. And it is really disappointing to us that we won't be able to meet with you face to face at the moment. But nevertheless, we do have an induction weekend planned for you, which is interactive. It's full of presentations from tutors, interactive opportunities for you to work together in groups, get to know your fellow students, and begin to feel confident about being part of the course, and beginning to understand what the aims of the course are and what's expected of you. And the date for that weekend is the 15th and 16th of October. And just a comment here. It is, if you do become, or you are part of that course, the 15th and 16th of October are compulsory parts of the module. If you fail to be part of that weekend, then I'm afraid you have to move forward or move backwards to the next course, because it is expected that you would be part of those 2 days. And following on from the 2 days, you will get to know your tutor, and your tutor will begin to put together some tutorials so that there's lots of chances and opportunities to get to know you really well, and for you to get to know the others in the tutor group. So let's just look at the funding. The original fee you'll see there is 31,054 EDs. And there is an exclusive Stafford grant for this of 5,354, which provides you with a total fee of 25,700 plus VAT if applicable. And you can pay this in flexible monthly instalments. So please do think about this. It's very user-friendly. It's very encouraging for you to apply. So I'm hoping that the financial side is attractive to you, as well as all of the things that I've been saying in terms of your academic involvement. We would love to have you as part of the course, and I've just touched on a number of things there that you might be thinking about, but I'm quite sure that many of you have got other questions which you'd like to ask, and I'm sure that Helen has already been putting those together, as some of the questions will probably be quite similar, and I'm very happy to answer as many or all of them as we can in the time. And I'm sure Helen will help with some of those questions, which are more to do with Stafford than the university. So between us, we hope we'll answer everything, won't we, Helen?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alison. It was very, very informative. And yes, you're quite correct. I have seen a few questions that have come through, and I've already grouped them together. Okay, a question from Adam. How long are the 60 credits valued for? In other words, once he has completed his PGCE, can he go forward and do a master's after 5 years? Will that be?
Yeah, sorry, Helen. Yes, Adam. At the moment, the timeline is up to 5 years. So you know the choice is, you can either go straight on when you've completed PGCEI and join a master's, which lots of people do, or you can just take a break from academic study and get on with your teaching and still use those credits up to 5 years. Yes.
Okay, and with regards to the workshops, yes, they are mandatory, so it's very important that you make yourself available. And Dr. Alison will be able to tell you that this is virtual, and she'll be able to give you just some guidance on what happens, on these workshops. So, Dr. Alison, can you just give us a little bit of background about the virtual workshops?
Yes, I will. I can. I think when we say virtual workshops, people worry a little bit about this and wonder how it will all work. And it does work really beautifully. We do it through Teams, and it means that everybody has access individually to being part of that two days. And it's organised in so that we can either, as a whole group, listen to and see one of the tutors giving a lecture, and then through Teams you can separate, and you don't do this, this is all done for you, so don't worry about it. You then separate into groups, and you can see each other in the group, so you're not sort of just hearing a voice and wondering who you're talking to. You can see each other, and you're working in groups of between 6 to 8 people, talking about what you've been listening to, discussing it. And then throughout the 2 days, you move around into different groups to give you lots of opportunities to meet with as many people as possible. And this is not something you have to worry about. It is done for you, and you're guided into that during the 2 days. And in each group, you will be able to see who you're working with. You'll also have materials which come up on the screen. If it's a group task, and sometimes you're asked to do things together, to work on something as a group, then the materials will come up on the screen, and that includes written materials, but it also includes lots of videos that you'll be asked to watch, and slides. So it's very much mixed media, and there are lots of opportunities to talk and discuss with each other as well as with tutors. Quite a long day. We begin at 9 o'clock till 4:30 each day, but no session is longer than 45 minutes. So you work either listening to a tutor or in a group for 45 minutes, and then there's a 10-minute break, and then we begin again. And I think, if I remember rightly, we have an hour for lunch. So there are plenty of breaks, because you do have to concentrate hard during the 2 days. But I think everyone who's done it that I know of has really enjoyed it. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's given you a bit of an outline and a flavour of what the 2 days would be like.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you. And I'll just answer Farzana's question. It's related to her not having a degree. Okay, so for applicants who do not have a degree but do have a substantial number of years working experience, you can apply on what we call a non-standard entry. So please do get in touch with our academic consultants, and they'll be able to advise you accordingly. Okay, and how many hours on average per week should I be committing to this program?
Well, I think it's quite hard to be very specific, because I think people work at different speeds. But on an average, we would say between about 12 and 14 hours a week. It's about 2 hours a day, something like that. But you have to remember that some people have got more time than others, and would want to spend a lot of time. If you are short of time for all sorts of reasons, it's really important to be strict with yourself and be very well organised, and try to have a regular input of extra work. And you don't have to read everything in the course materials. You have to read the compulsory parts. If you have extra time, you can do all sorts of extra reading. But for those who are just on a certain amount of time, so long as you do the compulsory reading and the compulsory work, that would be absolutely fine.
Good. And yes, with regards to references, we do require 2 references. You can get in touch with your academic consultants to give you a bit of guidance on that as well. Okay, and Henrique has joined us from India, which is great. My first language is in English, and how will I know if my degree is acceptable? Okay, that's also a very good question. Again, if you send your academic transcript as well as your degree certificate to your academic consultant, they will be able to advise you. We do look at each application as an individual entity, so we really need to look where your degree come from, which university, as well as your results. Okay, right, and a very interesting question here. I do have a bachelor degree, but unfortunately I've got no teaching related work experience. How can I join this program?
Right, it is an interesting question, and please don't let that put you off. Because if you were interested in joining the programme, there is time between now and October to get some experience by volunteering maybe. I know not all schools are working properly at the moment, but quite a lot of schools are. So I would volunteer to join a school to do something alongside a teacher on a voluntary basis, maybe working with children in a reading situation. There are all sorts of ways that you can volunteer to get a feel of the classroom, a feel for the school. Partner up with somebody maybe who's doing some private tutoring. Ask if you can join them. So it is important. I mean, we do have many students who have no evidence of teaching qualifications or no teaching experience, but we just encourage you to get a little bit of that before you start the course, so that you have some experience, and also you can put it on your application form too, which is always really helpful.
Absolutely. Do get in touch with us again, and we will be able to guide you regarding that particular entry requirement. And Sandra's question is regarding to her bachelor degree, must it be translated in English? Yes, Sandra, if your degree has been issued in any other language besides English, the university would want to see the English translated version as well as the transcript as well, but they would want to see your original as well. So yes, do try and get that translated as soon as possible. There's some very good companies that will be able to do that for you. Okay, and right, after I have completed my PGCE, can there be any placement opportunities available for me?
Well, that's an interesting question. Do you mean placement opportunities? I guess you mean in a school for teaching.
Yeah.
We have a fantastic, we've kept records over the years of what students have done afterwards, post PGCE, and most people get placements in the countries that they want to have placements in. That includes UAE. It includes other places, because people do join the course from all over the world. So we would expect that people would get jobs at the end of it. I think there are some, I don't know about this, Helen, whether this is something you'd want to talk about at the moment. In the UAE, I think there are programs starting that would enable people to get qualified teacher status as well. Is that right at the moment?
Yes, and I think that's actually one of the questions that has been asked by an applicant that's with us this evening, is this program QTS? Does this program lead to QTS? So I think, Dr. Alison, you can just briefly explain the process once a student has completed this program, what they can do to actually get that QTS.
Yeah, I mean, this program is based on a PGCE course, which gives you the academic side of becoming a teacher. So if you like, when you finish that, you finish part of the course. If you wanted to, a lot of places don't require you to have qualified teacher status, but some do. And if that's the case, you need to add on to this qualification the assessment part. And the assessment part is assessment of your practical teaching. Now that can be done in the UK if you happen to be in the UK or coming to the UK. And I think there are things happening in UAE for this to happen there as well. Am I right, Helen?
Yes, absolutely. Do get in touch with us at Stafford, and we will be able to give you some guidance, and we'll be able to give you a link directly to QTS, so that you can actually have a look and see what the processes are in you to gain that QTS. Okay, so if do I still need to do an IELTS? Oh yes. Okay, so Enrique, if your academic documents have already been assessed by one of our experienced academic consultants, and they have mentioned that you're required to do a formal English test, whether it's an IELTS or a TOEFL, then yes, then that is the correct advice. Okay, and this is also regarding degrees from South Africa. Are they classified as a good second-class honours? Okay, again, Leah, a lot of our students have actually come, or do actually come from South Africa, have had very, very good degrees, whether it's from UNISA, University of Cape Town, WITS, Stellenbosch, and these are widely accepted by the university. Again, do send us your documentation so that we can actually pre-assess it for you. Okay, and you mentioned that this program is actually worldwide recognized. Is this a program where I can take it and teach in Singapore or Thailand?
Yes, absolutely. It's recognised in many countries around the globe, and particularly those two. So yes, it's the University of Nottingham is quite famous for this particular programme, and I do know of people going to do exactly that. Yes. So,
okay.
and I think let me just add. Sorry, Helen. Just to add to that, when you get your certificate at the end of the course, if you're successful, and I hope you will be, and I'm sure you will be, when you receive the certificate, it doesn't say anything on the certificate about it being a distance learning course, because it is a blended course, which is what I talked about earlier. So this certificate, and because it is the University of Nottingham, and the University of Nottingham is well regarded around the globe, this is a really good thing to have in order to achieve the job that you want, wherever it is. Yeah.
And how long are these modules? And can I perhaps take 2 modules at the same time to finish this program in a shorter time period?
No, the short answer to that is no. In the past, there was a possibility to fast track, because at one stage the modules happened to be 4 during that period of time, and in those days there was less to do in each of those modules and spread out in a different way. But now we don't advise people to do that, because it's a really very short amount of time to cover the kind of work you will in each of these modules, and to do an assignment of 4,000 words for each of those modules. We want you to think about it carefully. Part of the course, which is really important, is to be able to become a reflective practitioner. So we teach you to reflect and think carefully about things and take your time. But there is a pace to the course, because there are lots of things to get through. But the course does need that almost 12 months. So I would say absolutely not. And it goes very quickly in the time that you have allocated to it. Having said that, sometimes there are absolutely exceptional circumstances where somebody has got to finish quickly, and they might not be attached to a full-time job. You know, something has happened, and there are always exceptions. The university is very caring, and if something does happen which is going to cause a difficulty, those things are always considered.
Okay, excellent. And Tanya has a question. And again, I think you've answered this, Alison. Tanya's background is in engineering, but she is currently working in a school almost going on to 2 years, which is fantastic, Tanya. So remember, the entry criteria is that you must have access to a school environment. So even though you have been doing for 2 years, that's fantastic. Obviously, if you've got an undergraduate degree as well, we can have a look at that. But as long as you do have that access to a school, so that's fine. I'm sure you can apply for the program. Okay, and a question here from Sumaya. In the event that there may be things beyond my control, such as health issues, are we allowed to take a break between the semesters? And if yes, how long is that break?
Well, that's a really good question, because I just mentioned a moment ago that the university is really caring about students' health and mental welfare. And, you know, things do happen in people's lives once they've started the course. And if something occurs that you feel you need some time away from the course, you're entitled to apply for an extension. You do need evidence for that, which could be a doctor's certificate or someone from your school writing a note for you. But it is easy to get an extension if you have the reasons to need an extension. Now, we always advocate that people do this before they need it. Don't leave it to the last minute. If you feel things are going slightly wrong and you don't feel well, or something has happened in your life, don't hesitate to talk to your tutor and apply for an extension. But in addition to that, sometimes other things occur and which are quite overwhelming, and people just feel that they need a break from studying. So you are actually allowed to apply also for what's called a voluntary interruption of studies. And that could be something up to 6 months at a time. So that gives you a longer break. And some students find that they need even longer than that. There is a limit to how long you can take that type of break for, but it is very important to know that it's there. And the shorter breaks are the extensions which you find you might have something has happened in your job, your family life, your health, which require a slightly shorter extension. So the two kinds of extensions are available to everybody, should they need them.
Excellent. And there's a follow-up question to that. If that's the case, then what is the maximum time period that I can complete the program? So if I want to stretch it for more than 12 months, how long, can I do this program for?
2 years.
Excellent. So that's the beauty of the program, very, very flexible for you.
Yeah.
Okay, what if I fail an assessment? And I'm hoping that it shall not happen. That's very good thinking. What would be my next step? Does the tutor assist me and tell me where I have gone wrong?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. We hope it doesn't happen, but it does happen, and it's important to face that. And for all sorts of reasons it happens, but not very frequently. Thank goodness. But your tutor will help you and point out to you where things have gone wrong, and also point out to you what you need to do to make it right, and give you lots of support to build up not just your success in academia, but also your confidence. Because sometimes when that happens, your confidence takes a knock as well. So your tutor is there to help you do that. And you have 6 weeks from failing a particular assignment. You can't fail the process work. You can't fail the coursework unless you don't happen to do it. But you can't fail that. So I'm talking only about the assignments. If you fail an assignment, you have 6 weeks in order to do it again and resubmit. And during that time, you will have tutor support. But you do have an opportunity to do it, and you can resubmit twice. People don't need to resubmit twice. So if people do need to resubmit, they're usually very successful on the second attempt. But please don't assume that you would fail, because I think it's quite unusual to fail. But having said that, it does happen.
Good, good. Okay, and for applicants that are looking to see if they qualify for any scholarships, do get in touch with our academic consultants, and they'll be able to advise you accordingly on that. Okay, and the program is based on assessments only, from what I understand. Why are there no examinations?
Because it isn't that kind of course. It doesn't have an exam at the end of it, but it does have the assessment through the assignments. And it is expected that students will look very closely at the marking criteria that we have. That will become very obvious during the first part of the induction weekend. So you can see that it is that the requirements are quite tough, but quite fair. And there are expectations that you would be looking at a pass level, you would be looking at a credit level of a pass, or you could be looking at a distinction. So within the programme itself, there are different levels of achieving success, and that is instead of exams.
Okay, and with regards to the fees, if it takes you just slightly over a year to complete it, the fee amount does not change. Okay, so do get in touch with us and we'll be able to advise you how that actually works. But no, you will not be subjected to any fee escalation. Okay, and I'm assuming that with this particular PGCE, I can teach anything, any type of subject, whether it is English, geography, or history. Is this correct?
Yes, it is correct. I said at the beginning that it was a course which was relevant to people working in kindergarten through to further education. And usually people come with experience of either being in primary or early years, and choose to go back. Even if you've been working not particularly as the class teacher, but as a teaching assistant or as a volunteer, you will have had experience already with a particular age group, which I'm guessing would be your preference. And I think that's what you would be looking for in terms of a job. But the course itself does allow you to work right across that age range, because it's the nature of the course that we look at teaching and learning across that age range. Okay, I hope that answers it.
Okay, good. And there's just a few questions on approvals and accreditations. And approvals and accreditations are really quite tricky because every single country has got its own rules and regulations. So what we normally advise is to contact the relevant authorities in your own country. So whether it is in Oman, or whether you're in Kuwait or Bahrain, UAE, do get in touch with your own ministries and ascertain if this will be approved or accredited by them. The reason for this is that the rules, as I said, do change, and they do change quite often. And the university, North Stafford, can actually give you the correct and updated information on that. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting question. It comes from Pavan. I have been an English teacher for over 15 years. Is there an age limit for me to do this program? In other words, I'm too old to do this program.
Well, I would shout down the sort of my laptop immediately, saying no, 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 absolutely not. We welcome everyone, and honestly, if you've had 15 years experience, you bring something to the course which is invaluable. And I said at the beginning that some of the discussions which we have in groups are very rich, and you know, some people have had no experience and want questions answered. They want to have that discussion, and if you have experience, that's just brilliant. You can bring all sorts of ideas to the discussions, which will be very, very welcomed by tutors and also the other students.
Absolutely. And a last question is regarding the graduation. Obviously, there is COVID at the moment. I would love to attend graduation in the UK. What would happen if we cannot attend it due to COVID? How do I get my degree?
Okay, well, this summer we're having a virtual graduation day again, which is always very successful because we have lots of, people can join in from wherever you happen to be and, see lots of things going on during the day. And it is actually, it's as close as we can get to the actual ceremony without being there. And, people's names are read out and the degrees and the certificates are given, and post that particular day, those certificates will be sent to you. The details you'll be given the details of this much nearer the time, and it's really important that we have your address to where we can send the certificate to. It's really important, and you also get a copy of this sent by email as well. So post the actual degree, the graduation day, all the administrative things happen after that in terms of you getting your certificate and realizing that you've got your qualification. But hopefully, I'm hoping desperately that the graduation ceremonies will start again in the not too distant future. And normally we have quite a number of students who come over from the UAE for graduation, and it's usually wonderful to see people again. And it's just very special that that people do come. So I'm really hoping that that starts again, as I say, in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. I've managed to group all the questions together, some very interesting questions. We do have limited places available for the program. We only accept 100 students from the Middle East, so please do ensure that you send those applications as soon as possible, because it does actually book up quite quickly. Dr. Alison, thank you so much. It was a great pleasure seeing you again. And everyone that joined us this evening, I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and you will also be able to get the recording of this. It will come through from my email. Yes, as I said, please let's try and get these applications into the university as soon as possible and get that very, very important unconditional offer for you. Thank you, everyone, and have a very good evening.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.